Have you ever seen a family hand their daughter disownment papers as a birthday gift? I have. On the night of my 31st birthday, the warm yellow lights of a private room at the Marlowe fell onto a gleaming gold envelope. My sister Evelyn lifted her phone, excited as if she were recording a historic moment. And my mother, Miranda, smirked with full satisfaction as she slid the envelope toward me. From all of us. Hello, I'm Aubrey Hawthorne, 31 years old. And today, I want to tell you about the greatest reversal of my life, the day my own family decided to disown me, convinced I was nothing more than a failed waitress unworthy of standing beside the Hawthorne name. What they didn't know was that just a few weeks earlier, I had signed a contract powerful enough to change the entire trajectory of my life, an executive position at a hotel conglomerate they couldn't even dream of touching. The blow they thought would destroy me arrived at the exact moment I was about to step onto an entirely new stage. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where the fractures truly began. And if you're still watching this far, tell me where you're watching from. I read every single comment, because every story begins with someone who chooses to stay and listen. There are fractures in a family that only the lowest one in the hierarchy notices first. The first signs appeared soft as a sigh, yet sharp enough to send a chill down my spine. During dinners in our classic Upper East Side townhouse, my mother Miranda saved all the important questions for Evelyn. How's the progress on the charity fund project? What did the city council say? And me? I got things like, was your dinner shift busy last night? Is the restaurant still making you wait tables? My father, Charles, let his eyes drift over me like I was an outsider invited just to fill a seat. A lukewarm nod. A slow, and that was it. I sat there, in the same chair I had used since childhood. Yet it felt like I was occupying a place no one wanted occupied. Exclusion doesn't happen all at once. It starts with events that are suddenly not appropriate for me to join. The first was the gala at the Columbia Club, the annual gathering of Manhattan's most influential families. Evelyn appeared in a silver satin gown, standing among well-known media figures, while I was standing in the staff break room at the Marlowe, taking out hairpins after a 10-hour shift. I only learned I wasn't invited when I saw their photos on Instagram. A long table glowing with candles and Moet champagne, everyone tilting their heads and smiling. I zoomed in 3 times, just to confirm that I truly wasn't there. And that feeling being erased from your own family's story hurts in a way no one can see. One night, when I came home early to return the spare key for the second-floor room, I accidentally heard Evelyn's voice drifting from the living room. Aubrey, do you think she has any real direction? Or is she just going to wait tables forever? My mother replied in that lightly mocking tone she always tried to hide. She doesn't fit in this environment. Just let her manage on her own. She's used to it. I stood by the staircase, my hand gripping the wooden railing. I didn't cry. I didn't run. I just felt like a sheet of invisible glass had been placed between me and them. I could still see them. But to them, I was nothing more than a shadow fading out of view. If you've ever been treated like a shadow in your own family, you know exactly how that ache feels. The evening at the Gramercy Social Club was the first time I realized how intentional the belittling had become. While Evelyn laughed and chatted with my mother's guests, she casually threw her napkin toward me just as I stepped up to the table. Could you hand this to me? And while you're at it, get more ice. Everyone laughed, thinking it was a harmless joke. But only I knew where that toss really came from the invisible distance they always kept between me and them. I stood there for a few seconds, picked up the napkin, and felt the sting of something that had gone on for far too long. And things like that weren't the only ones. They repeated as though pre-programmed. I disappeared from family meetings. My name vanished from guest lists for major events. Even the Christmas card, only my parents and Evelyn were on it. And me? I only ever saw my name on the restaurant schedule every evening, without fail. To them, I was no longer part of the Hawthorne family they wanted to showcase to the world. Then came an autumn night, a night I didn't know would change the direction of my entire life. An international guest arrived at the restaurant. Demanding and difficult to read, the kind of man where a single wrong sentence could tarnish the reputation of the entire place. As I bent down to place the menu in front of him, he looked at me sharp, quick, perceptive, like someone seasoned enough to understand a person's worth through the smallest reactions. When a mishap occurred, I immediately switched to his language. Resolving the issue so smoothly, the whole dining room seemed to exhale, as if an invisible knot had been loosened. I thought I had simply saved a tough situation. I didn't know that moment was laying the foundation for a new life entirely. I didn't know. Someone else had been watching every move I made, and he was the very person who would make the entire Hawthorne family pay for everything they had once belittled. Sometimes, a stranger sees your value before your own blood family ever does. The Marlowe at night had its own rhythm, chaotic, yet delicate, like a jazz piece with no written notes. The clinking of glasses, the scrape of knives against porcelain, and candlelight reflected across white linen tables. I moved quickly past tables 8 through 12, my left hand balancing a wine tray, my right hand adjusting the tie of the new server. My breathing blended into the background noise like part of the machine. Table 14 needs more water. Table 18 wants to change their dish. David, the night manager, lowered his voice just enough for me to hear without guests noticing. "I'll take it." He never had to repeat himself. The Marlowe was the only place where I felt I controlled everything. No, Evelyn smirking at me. No, Mother lowering her voice to criticize. Just work and the truth that I was good at it. Very good. Then the incident happened. VIP guests, at table 6, a group of Japanese executives led by Mr. Person. Sato had barely sat down when they discovered the table had been arranged incorrectly, according to traditional ceremony rules. A serious mistake. I heard the metal chair scrape sharply against the wooden floor. "Mr." Sato stood up, his voice cutting like the tip of a blade. "This is unacceptable." David's face drained. A mistake like that with international clients could destroy a contract worth millions of dollars. I saw the tightness in Mr. Lud, Sato's expression, and the cooling eyes of the others. The air suddenly smelled of freshly opened sake and impending disaster. "Let me," I whispered to David. He exhaled, almost pleading. "Aubrey, only you can do this." I walked toward table 6, bowing at the perfect angle, hands placed neatly in front of me, not a textbook bow, but one I had learned from older Japanese guests, respectful and humble at the same time. "Shensi wa gozaimasen deshita, zotongnam," deepest apologies. "Mr. Sato." The entire table fell silent. I switched into Japanese as naturally as breathing, explaining the technical error, taking responsibility, promising immediate correction, and offering a personalized alternative drawing on a detail about his hometown I remembered from a brief conversation the week before. Mr. Sato's gaze softened. The creases around his eyes relaxed. "Anata wa oboete ita no ka?" You remembered that? "Of course," I replied. Within minutes, I guided them into the restaurant's private room, warm lighting, hot tea waiting, and the appetizer adjusted to match the Kansai palate where he was born. The tension that had stretched tight as wire loosened. A nod from Mr. Sato. A breath was released from the waiting staff. A grateful glance from David. I didn't know. Someone else had been watching my every move that night. As I stepped out of the private room, adjusting my apron, I noticed a man sitting at table 12. Not flashy. Not smiling. Not talking. But observing everything with razor-sharp stillness. I didn't know his name then. Didn't know who he was. I only saw the straight posture, the charcoal suit, and the Patek Philippe watch, the kind chosen only by people of extreme refinement and accomplishment. He wasn't looking at the menu. He was looking at me. Not with judgment. Not with the usual condescension I'd grown used to. It was the look of someone analyzing. I returned to the order station when David pulled me aside. Do you know what I just heard? What? Mr. Sato praised you. Said you handled everything flawlessly. Said you captured their cultural spirit better than Japanese restaurants in Manhattan. Aubrey, that's not just a compliment. That's a door opening. I smiled, but something hollow stirred inside me. Why could a stranger see what my own family never could? I didn't know the man from table 12 was standing just behind David, holding a glass of wine, his gaze tilted slightly as if memorizing every detail. A staff member passed by and whispered, "I think that's Marcus Creed, CEO of the Crystal Ark hotel chain. Probably doing a secret quality check." I froze. Crystal Ark was the hotel conglomerate my mother once begged to consult for and was rejected. Their name was big enough to shape an entire industry. "Hello, I'm delighted to assist you with our voice services. Choose a voice that resonates with you, and let's begin our creative audio journey together." No one had ever said that to me, especially not my family. I looked into the small mirror in the break room. Hair slightly messy. Lipstick faded. Eyes red from exhaustion. But beneath all that, I saw something else, a version of myself I had forgotten. Capable. I didn't know that when I stepped out the restaurant's back door to catch a taxi home, a man was standing not far away, phone in hand. "Find me her file," he said quietly into it. A pause. "Name: Aubrey Hawthorne." I had no idea. I thought the night ended like every other night. But it didn't. No one had ever said that to me, especially not my family. I looked into the small mirror in the break room. Hair slightly messy. Lipstick faded. Eyes red from exhaustion. But beneath all that, I saw something else, a version of myself I had forgotten. Capable. I didn't know that when I stepped out the restaurant's back door to catch a taxi home, a man was standing not far away, phone in hand. "Find me her file," he said quietly into it. A pause. Name: Aubrey Hawthorne. I had no idea. I thought the night ended like every other night. But it didn't. There are opportunities that appear only once, and they often come from people you've never met. The next morning, while the Marlowe was still glowing with the remnants of the night shift lights, I sat in the corner of the staff break room, my hands wrapped around a steaming cup of coffee. My feet hurt so badly I wanted nothing more than to take my shoes off. But something else pulled my attention harder. A new email notification on my phone screen. Subject: Request for a private meeting M. Creed. I blinked. A second time. A third time. Marcus Creed, CEO of the Crystal Ark hotel chain, the man who appeared only on the covers of financial magazines and at events with the Hawthorne family dreamed of being invited to? Impossible. I opened the email. "Ms. Hawthorne, your performance last night was exceptional. I would like to discuss an opportunity. Are you available today at 4 p.m? M. Creed, short, precise, and powerful. No wasted words. No empty politeness. I stared at the word. Exceptional for a long time. That word had never appeared in any sentence from my mother or Evelyn. I leaned back against the wooden wall, my heart beating in a way that didn't feel human. Could this be a mistake? A prank? A fake email? No. Men like Marcus Creed don't make mistakes. And they certainly don't waste time writing fake emails. David walked in, staring at me. "Are you okay? You look like you just heard you won the lottery." I simply handed him my phone. He read it, eyes widening. "No way. Aubrey, do you understand what this means?" I did. But the most painful truth was, I didn't believe I deserved it. When you grow up in a family that treats you as disposable, you learn to question every good thing that comes your way. At 3:40 p.m., I stood in front of Crystal Ark's headquarters, a glass tower reflecting the Manhattan sky. It felt like a world I didn't belong to. The revolving door opened, a burst of cold air hitting me. Walnut wood, the staff's perfume, the scent of power. "Hello. May I check your appointment?" The receptionist spoke gently, but professionally. I handed her my ID. She checked it, then straightened up as if she had just encountered someone important. Ms. Aubrey Hawthorne. Mr. Creed is expecting you in the meeting room on the 52nd floor. Her voice softened. Good luck. Good luck? No one had ever wished me that before. A private elevator opened dark wood walls, LED lights running in 2 straight lines like a guided path. I saw my reflection in the glass. The apron was gone, replaced with a white button-down shirt and simple, neat black trousers. But I still felt like I was trespassing in someone else's world. No one had ever asked me this. Aubrey, what do you want for yourself? Not until he appeared. The meeting room was a massive glass box facing the entire Manhattan skyline. I stood before the floor-to-ceiling windows, feeling small against the sprawling city. The door opened. Marcus Creed entered. No theatrics. No entourage. A charcoal-tailored suit. A dark tie. And eyes as calm as a lake without wind. Aubrey Hawthorne? His voice was low and steady, didn't need volume to command attention. Yes. Sir. He sat down and motioned for me to sit across from him. First, he said, tapping his fingers lightly on the walnut table. I don't hire people based on CVs. I stayed silent, waiting. I hire people based on how they react when no one tells them what to do. He held my gaze for a long time, the kind that cuts through years of defenses. Last night, he continued, you did the right thing at the right moment. That's a quality this industry is missing. I swallowed. With only a few sentences, he understood me better than anyone in my family ever had. Marcus slid a thin folder toward me. I want you to try solving a case scenario. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just want to see how you think. I opened it. A case about an A-list VIP client, a media incident, and a demand for total discretion. Not easy. Not quick. Not something you could copy-paste from a college class. I started analyzing, writing, step by step, peeling back each layer of the problem. Marcus said nothing, just observed. That was when I realized he didn't need table service skills. He needed people handling intelligence, something he'd been trained in by life itself. When I put the pen down, he nodded slightly. Not many people approach it this way, he said. Most focus on PR. You focus on the human. And that's what I want. I exhaled light, but full of tension. Marcus stood and walked to the glass wall overlooking the city. Aubrey, he said slowly, I think you're in the wrong place. I froze. You're a diamond forgotten in a storage room, he continued. If you want a future that matches your capability, I have a position for you at Crystal Arc. I didn't speak. My throat tightened. He turned back, his gaze direct. The only question is, are you willing to step out of the box others have put you in? Those words, just a few, but they hit the deepest part of me, the part I had never dared to show anyone. When the elevator carried me back down to the lobby, my heart was still pounding. Manhattan wind slapped my face as I stepped out of the building, a jolt of awakening. I stood in the middle of the fast-moving NYC crowd, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel lost. I was about to enter a different world. A world they Miranda, Charles, and Evelyn never believed I deserved to touch. And it was also the world that would force them to face everything they had ever done to me. I didn't know that today's meeting would lead me straight into the worst birthday storm of my life the moment the Hawthorne family tried to sink me one last time. Sometimes, a family dinner isn't a place of warmth, but a place where people decide who is still valuable enough to sit at the table. The crystal lights in the Marlowe's private room shone down onto the long table covered in pristine white linen, casting a cold, blade-like glow. The clinking of cutlery rang sharp in the air, mixed with the whispered chatter of the Hawthorne relatives, people invited not to celebrate, but to act as spectators for a ritual I had no idea was coming. Miranda, My mother sat at the head of the table. Her blonde hair was neatly pinned up, her heavily made-up face giving her the look of someone hosting a charity gala, not her daughter's birthday dinner. Charles, my father, sat rigid, arms folded, eyes flicking to his watch as though counting down to the opening act. Evelyn was busy positioning her phone, turning the camera angle toward me as if preparing to live stream a historic downfall. I held my hands under the table, nails pressing gently into my palm to remind myself to stay calm. But something felt wrong. A thick, shadowy heaviness in the room, like someone was waiting to push me into a pit. You cannot hurt someone who has stopped expecting love from you, but you can infuriate them when you no longer bleed from their words. Dinner hadn't even been served before the soft attack began. Patricia, my cousin aunt, lifted her wine glass and smiled with fake pity. Aubrey, I heard you're still working at the restaurant. Dear? The office jobs didn't suit you? Lucas, my cousin, cut in. Or maybe the salary isn't enough to move you out of that old apartment? Every remark had a clear target. To shrink me, to make me tremble, to make me feel small. But I had heard these lines so many times that they barely registered. I simply gave a faint smile. And clearly, that bothered them. Miranda tilted her head, her voice soft but sharp as a needle. When will you finally decide to do something useful for the family? My father followed, as if rehearsed. Evelyn just secured a new project with the investment fund. And you are still struggling with that serving tray? I looked at each face studying me, the familiar 10-year-long ache tightening like an unhealed scar. But today, I was no longer the girl who bit her lip and endured. Miranda set down her napkin and signaled the table to quiet down. Aubrey, I truly hope you understand. This family needs people worthy of representing the Hawthorne name. And you, her eyes swept over me as if evaluating a defective product. Still haven't found the right path. Charles straightened his suit sleeve. You're turning 32 soon. A woman your age should have a real career, not temporary work. Evelyn raised her wineglass, voice dripping with acidity. You know, everyone in the family keeps asking me, what does your sister even do? I honestly don't know what to tell them. Laughter broke out. I heard each word slide into my ears, but instead of pain, I felt something else. Absolute clarity. Their words were proof the exact reason I needed to cut myself out of this toxic spiral. Evelyn propped her phone on a small stand, camera pointed straight at me. For memories, she said, her voice a little too excited. I knew immediately. They were about to do something they believed would break me. Miranda smiled the same smile she wore when she was about to announce someone's exclusion from her social circles. I swallowed. My stomach tightened. This was not a normal birthday dinner. Miranda gestured for the staff to close the door. The room snapped into silence. Then she pulled a gold envelope from her purse, placing it in front of me gently, but with the cold sting of an invisible slap. Happy birthday, Aubrey. Her voice sounded like she was delivering a public speech. All eyes locked onto me. Evelyn brought the camera closer. I opened the envelope. A thick sheet of paper, printed on the highest grade stock, the kind used only for major contracts or legal decisions. The first line made my body numb. Declaration of Disownment, the Hawthorne family. My heart wanted to ache. But instead, a strange calm washed over me. Not because I was strong, but because I was used to being treated like a burden. I folded the paper shut, placed it on the table. Miranda leaned forward, waiting for me to cry, to collapse. But I simply said softly, "Thank you." The entire table froze. They expected pleading. They expected fear. But I was calm, terrifyingly calm. Evelyn frowned. You don't have anything to say?" Patricia stuttered. "Dear, do you understand what that means?" Charles growled. "This is an official decision. You are no longer part of this family. I tilted my head slightly. Yes, I understand everything. What they didn't know was that a few weeks earlier, I had already signed a contract with Creed Hotels International, preparing to become Director of Guest Experience, a position Miranda herself had never been able to reach. They thought this envelope was the final blow. They didn't know they were cutting themselves out of my life at the exact moment I was stepping into the brightest chapter I'd ever had. I pushed my chair back, the clack echoing in the quiet room. "Aubrey," Miranda shot up. "What do you think you're doing?" I slipped my coat over my arm, slow and composed. "You're right, Mother," I said. "Tonight I received the most memorable birthday gift of my life. They thought I was mocking them. From now on," I looked at each one, "I no longer have to live inside the box you built for me. This frees me." Evelyn's eyes widened. "You can't just walk out in the middle of dinner," I smiled. "You just removed me from the family. So why would I stay?" The air exploded. I walked toward the door, paused, and turned back one last time. My voice was low and calm but sharper than a blade. "You all hold on to that Hawthorne name. Tomorrow, it's going to mean something very different." I saw Miranda flush pale, Charles' brows furrow. Evelyn lifted her phone, but her hands shook. They didn't understand what I meant, but they knew it wasn't good for them. 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, the real show begins. I pushed the door open and stepped out, leaving behind an entire family in shock, whispering in frantic confusion. My birthday dinner ended, but my new life had just begun. There are doors that only open when you dare to step out of the room that once suffocated you. The heavy door of the Marlowe's private dining room closed behind me with a dry, cold thud, the sound of an old chapter being severed. New York's night air rushed in, mixing with honking cars, rushing traffic, and wind brushing against glass towers. Everything felt like a reminder. Freedom is sometimes just one door away. Streetlights reflected off the rain-glazed sidewalk, pools of water mirroring my silhouette. No longer the pitiful girl whose family declared her unworthy, but the woman who just chose to walk away from the table where they disowned her like a birthday gift. I walked slowly, my heels striking the pavement like the steadying rhythm of my heartbeat. Each breath lighter, each step firmer. My car stopped in front of the black glass headquarters of Creed Hotels International. The skyscraper sliced into Manhattan's skyline, its blue-white lights reflecting across the floors, making it look like an illuminated grand piano towering over the night. I inhaled deeply and walked in. Inside, the lobby stretched wide with white marble floors, gleaming steel columns, and massive screens displaying Creed hotels around the world. Dubai, Tokyo, Vancouver, and San Francisco. Here, no one smirked at the mention of a serving position. Here, people looked at actual capability. The contrast between this place and the Hawthorne dining room earlier was bitterly sharp. Sometimes, what changes your life is simply meeting someone refined enough to see the worth your family always ignored. The security guard at the reception desk looked up as I approached. "Good evening, Director Hawthorne." His tone was full of respect. I paused for half a second. Director. A word never once spoken in my home. A word never used for me until this place. I nodded. "I'm here to see Mr. Creed. 52nd floor. Hez expecting you." Expecting me. Not like my family, who only expected the moment I failed so they could claim they were right. The elevator opened on the 52nd floor, where glass walls wrapped around the entire view of New York at night. I stepped into the quiet meeting space. Soft golden light made the room feel like a pre-performance stage, a place where only truly significant people ever appeared. Marcus Creed stood with his back to me, hands in his pockets, gazing down at the woven veins of streets below. "Aubrey." Just one word, but deep and welcoming. He turned, offering a small, genuine smile. "Welcome home." Those words Words I had never heard from my own family. Words I had waited 31 years for. Words that warmed my chest like someone had set a small flame inside it. We sat in the glass-walled room. Marcus placed a folder in front of me. You've made a strong impression throughout the entire selection process. Aubrey. Our evaluation board said you were the best candidate they have ever met. Memories rushed back. The 3-hour interviews. The presentation I built after 70 hours of research. The crisis management simulation with professional actors. The secret meetings in quiet coffee shops. And the feeling of being valued. Marcus continued. The way you handled that Japanese delegation. Truly masterful. My heart pounded. And yet my family only ever said, "You just know how to pour water." Marcus slid a small box toward me. "This is yours." I opened it. A polished metal badge gleamed up at me. Aubrey Hawthorne, Director of Guest Experience, Creed Hotels. International 1, brushed my fingers over the cool surface. For the first time in my life, a title felt like it belonged to me. Marcus said gently, "You've been good enough for a long time. You were just stuck with people who didn't want you to realize it." My heart tightened, but not from pain, from truth. He continued, "Let's go over the official documents." He opened the contract. The figures nearly took my breath away. $280,000 per year equity in a private executive penthouse suite. Everything my family used to belittle me with was now lying right in front of me. Proof that they had been wrong about me for years. As I clipped the badge onto my shirt, the meeting room lights reflected off the metal surface. I saw a different version of Aubrey staring back, stronger, sharper, daring to step out of the place that once suffocated her. Marcus watched me, pride in his eyes. "Aubrey, from now on, you will oversee the guest experience for our entire system. This isn't just a job, it's a statement." I looked up. "A statement of what?" He smiled. "That you never belonged to the way they talked about you." My chest tightened again, but this time, from healing. Marcus leaned against the table, his voice lowering. "You know, your family won't let this go." I laughed softly. "They haven't let anything go for 31 years. I'm used to it. But this time is different. Aubrey." His tone sharpened. "When they learn where you stand now, they won't just panic. They'll be desperate." I stayed silent for a moment. He might be right, but I wasn't shaking anymore. I finally said, "Let them face the truth. I'm done hiding." I walked to the glass wall, looking down at New York, glowing like golden circuitry running across the city. I placed my hand over my blazer pocket, feeling the cool badge beneath the fabric. And I said not to Marcus, but to the future version of myself reflected in the glass. It's time they learn who I really am. People only begin to fear when the consequences return wearing their own faces and stare straight back at them. Morning in the Upper East Side began with the non-stop pinging of messages in the family group chat. Sunlight pierced through the sheer curtains of the Hawthorne home, shining onto Miranda's pale, stunned face as she jolted up from the sofa, her phone nearly slipping from her hand. The video from the Marlowe, the one Evelyn recorded last night, had been reposted in the family group by some anonymous relative. The angle was clear enough to capture every expression on Miranda's face, every mocking word, and the exact moment she slid the gold envelope toward me. The caption pinned on the video made her choke. "Hawthorne family disowns daughter on her birthday." Evelyn stared at the screen, her lips trembling violently. Who posted this?" "It's spreading. Someone downloaded it and reshared it," Charles scowled, slamming his coffee cup down so hard it rattled. "This is internal business. Who gave permission to share it?" No one answered. But panic had already begun spreading like a fever. The usually quiet family group chat suddenly turned into a battlefield. "Patricia. Good Lord. Miranda. What have you done? Aunt Grace. Why is there a disownment letter? Is this real? Uncle James. This video is being passed around at the club this morning. Cousin Kelly. Humiliating beyond belief. Miranda's face flushed red with a mix of rage and shame. "Shut the group down," she snapped. "Someone delete the video right now." But Evelyn was already pale. "We can't. It's been re-uploaded. Dad, Mom, it's spreading into other upper-class groups." Charles shot to his feet, his face draining of color. "How many people have seen it?" Evelyn swallowed hard. "It looks like the whole Upper East Side, and part of the investment conference this morning." No one said another word. But they all knew. The family's reputation had just taken a direct hit. Miranda's phone wouldn't stop ringing. The first call. Mrs. Henderson, president of the Millionaire Ladies Society. Her voice carried unmistakable judgment. "Miranda, I just saw the video. Is that real?" Miranda tried to steady her voice. "A misunderstanding. Henderson. The girl Aubrey, we don't care about the explanation. The council is discussing a temporary suspension of your participation in our events." Miranda's throat clenched. "Suspension? Henderson. I'm the host of this year's charity program, and now we're being questioned whether our society condones disowning one's daughter at a dinner table. You understand?" The cold click of the call ending hit harder than a slap. Miranda braced herself against the kitchen counter, her whole body shaking. Her entire life had been a pursuit of social prestige, only to be knocked down by the very moment she thought she was winning. Meanwhile, Charles' phone rang from the investment firm where had been a longtime partner. "Charles," the executive director began, voice tight. "That video about your family is circulating in investment circles. It's a family matter. It has nothing to do with work. You're mistaken. Partner funds are asking. If he can't manage his own family, how can he manage a portfolio? Understand?" Charles froze. "We suggest you refrain from public appearances for a few weeks. The board will meet to review this." The final beep of the call sounded like a verdict. Charles stared blankly. He had never imagined that he, a Hawthorne, would be placed under a microscope. Evelyn's phone wouldn't stop vibrating either. Her client, a major startup fund, called. "Evelyn, I need to ask plainly. The video from last night, is it real?" "Yes. But it's a family issue, not related to work. Actually, it says a lot about professional ethics." The client lowered his voice. "We cannot have someone with a family history like that representing our brand." "What are you implying?" "I didn't do anything wrong." "Then why did you record it? Why did you laugh? Why did you encourage it?" Evelyn went silent. They had seen everything. "We're terminating the contract effective today." She threw her phone onto the sofa, holding her head in both hands. No. This can't be happening." But it was. And this was only the beginning. When everything starts collapsing, panicked people do what they always do. They reach for the one person who used to put out their fires. Me. Miranda called. Charles called. Evelyn called. 13 calls, then 24, then 37. All went to voicemail. The messages shifted from angry. "Aubrey. Come home immediately. Too anxious. Aubrey. The family needs to talk. Too desperate. Aubrey, please. I'm sorry." I watched my phone vibrate on the desk at Creed HQ and didn't touch it. Not out of revenge, but because I had truly stepped out of that toxic circle. While my family burned like a collapsing old building, I sat in the glass office on the 52nd floor. Midday light cutting through Manhattan and across the project documents Marcus had assigned me. No chaos. No fear of judgment. Only focus. And a strange, solid steadiness, as if, for the first time in my life, the ground beneath me wasn't shaking. "Director Hawthorne." The assistant knocked. "Marcus would like to see you." I stood, smiling softly. "I'm coming." Marcus was standing near the glass wall, arms crossed, eyes on Fifth Avenue below. He turned as I walked in. "Are you all right?" I paused. A question that seemed simple, but one no one had ever asked me sincerely in my entire life. "I'm better than I expected," I said. Maybe because for the first time, I don't have to fix anyone else's emotions. Marcus nodded, as if he understood without needing more explanation. "Your family is panicking, aren't they?" I gave a faint smile. "Seems so. They'll soon realize this. The moment they tried to bury you was the moment they pushed you to the place you belonged." His words echoed through the wide meeting room, reaching the deepest part of me. Right then, an email popped up on my screen. From Gala Committee, Creed Hotel's subject. "Director Hawthorne, please confirm your keynote speech for next Friday's gala." My heart jumped. A gala. 500 guests. International press. The biggest event of the year. And I, the daughter they disowned, would be standing on that stage as director of guest experience. I looked up at the glowing Manhattan skyline beneath me, and this was the moment they began to realize they no longer controlled the narrative. Sometimes, the moment you walk into the right room, you stop being the person they once believed you were. The glass elevator slid up to the 52nd floor, reflecting my silhouette under the cool white lights. A year ago, I would have lowered my head, fixed my hair, and hoped I looked acceptable enough. Today, I simply stood tall. When the doors opened, the receptionist smiled. "Good morning, Director Hawthorne." Not the scripted kind of greeting, but the kind given to someone who carries weight in this building. In the executive lounge, the large screen played the morning financial news. The ticker at the bottom read, "Creed Hotels appoints new female director to lead global guest experience." Right beside it was my photo black suit, hair neatly tied, calm eyes. I didn't need to guess. The Hawthorne family had surely seen it too. The 52F meeting room glowed like a studio. Light streamed down onto the glass table, where files from 12 branches were arranged. Faces from Madrid, Tokyo, Vancouver, and Dubai all turned toward me. "Let's begin," I said, opening the first slide. The Frontline to Leadership program isn't just a project. It's a path for people who were once misjudged, just like all of us were. Jamal from Dubai leaned forward. "Listening to your story feels like someone finally said mine out loud. No one here knew I had been disowned at my own birthday dinner, but they looked at me as the person leading the meeting, not someone living in anyone's shadow. No one is born on the 52nd floor," I continued. "But we can pull the people who deserve it up here." The atmosphere shifted. No toasts. No applause. Just respect, quiet and unmistakable. At the end of the meeting, Lena, my assistant, walked into my office with an iPad. "Aubrey, here is the final VIP list for the gala. They want your approval." I scrolled and stopped. Charles and Miranda Hawthorne, Evelyn Hawthorne. Lena glanced at me cautiously. "Should I request their removal from the list?" I inhaled slowly. Instead of tightening, my chest felt steady. "No. Let them come." "Are you sure?" "Sure. Some truths need to be heard directly." I set the iPad down. Tomorrow, they would sit beneath the stage where I would speak, and they would no longer have the power to edit the story. That afternoon, Marcus called me into his office. On the table lay my speech draft, filled with yellow highlights and sections crossed out. "It's good," he said, "but it's not unforgettable." I frowned. I followed the brief. Marcus leaned back in his chair. "You wrote about hospitality, standards, and guest experience. But a gala isn't a classroom. They're not coming for statistics." He looked at me, voice softening. "They want the story of how you became the woman standing in this position." I went silent. That was the part I'd always avoided. "You don't need to name anyone," Marcus continued. Just say one sentence. This is what happens when you underestimate the wrong person. That's it? That's it. He smiled. And the entire room will understand the rest. I folded the draft closed. Maybe it was time to stop running. Across town, inside the Upper East Side penthouse, they were holding an emergency family meeting around the long walnut table. Miranda slammed the gala program onto the surface. She's going to destroy the Hawthorne name in front of 500 people. Charles rubbed his forehead. We can't control it anymore. Every major news outlet posted her photo this morning. Evelyn crossed her arms. We have to show up. If not, people will think the Hawthornes are hiding. But what they didn't say, though every one of them knew, was, for the first time in their lives, they would walk into a room where they were no longer the most important people. On rehearsal day, I tried on the gown the stylist had brought. Minimalist black. Square neckline. Perfectly tailored. No lace. No sparkle. Just the sharp elegance of a woman who rose from the very dismissiveness meant to break her. It's not a princess dress, the stylist said. It's the dress of a decision-maker. I looked at myself in the mirror. No longer the girl carrying trays, pressed against the wall. No longer the daughter disowned in front of relatives. Only the woman who fully understood the place she belonged. How do you feel? The stylist asked. I exhaled slowly, my shoulders relaxing. I feel like I've become someone they never imagined I could be. The grand sapphire ballroom echoed with the footsteps of technicians walking across the floor as they tested the lighting. Director Hawthorne, your mic check. I stepped onto the stage, fingers touching the microphone. Below me were hundreds of empty chairs. Tomorrow, each chair will hold a pair of eyes, including 3 pairs that once pushed me out of my own family. I lifted the mic. Good evening. I'm Aubrey Hawthorne, my voice carried across the speaker system. Clear, warm, steady. And this is the story of how someone who was disowned found her rightful place not under the table, but on the stage. The sound bounced against the ballroom walls before fading slowly. I gently pressed the director badge on my chest. Tomorrow, nothing would be a rehearsal. And tomorrow, they will hear the name Hawthorne in a way they never saw coming. There are endings that don't arrive with an explosion, but with a silence so heavy it steals your breath. I stepped off the stage to a wave of applause that lingered like the aftertaste of something the entire room had just witnessed. Not a speech, but a shift in power. Marcus touched my shoulder as I walked backstage. You owned the room, Aubrey. Directors, investors, and partners lined up to shake my hand. No one mentioned them. No one said the word. Hawthorne. Everyone spoke only about me, about the new program, and about the new vision, about the name. They were once considered a supporting character in the narrative of a powerful family. From a distance, I saw Charles, Miranda, and Evelyn huddled together behind a marble pillar. None of them approached. None of them dared call my name. Among 500 people, for the first time in their lives, they were the outsiders. I kept walking, without looking back. The next morning, I led my team meeting at 8 o'clock. In the middle of it, notifications flashed across my phone screen. Aurora Fund suspends Miranda Hawthorne. 5 minutes later, Hawthorne Capital drops 4.7% in value due to public image concerns. Then another message. From a senior manager I once knew. Evelyn just lost 3 VIP clients. They refused to work with an advisor associated with the gala incident. No apology. No admission of wrongdoing. Only silent collapse, rapid and merciless. I set my phone down and continued the meeting as if nothing had happened. Because it was true. Their downfall no longer belonged to my life. That afternoon, standing by the glass wall on the 52nd floor, Manhattan stretched beneath my feet like the map of a world I had opened for myself. My inbox filled with congratulations from global branches. You gave people like us a voice. You made us feel seen. I reopened the Frontline to Leadership document and added one more line. Sometimes talent doesn't bloom because it is underestimated, not because it lacks ability. I realized something with a clarity it never had before. I wasn't standing here to prove the Hawthorne family wrong. I was standing here because I had finally chosen myself. The greatest form of growth is when you no longer need an opponent to shine. 3 days after the gala, Lena said, "Aubrey, they're in the lobby." I knew who she meant. And I went down not for them, but because I wanted a clean ending. The grand lobby of Creed reflected every movement like polished water. Miranda stood, clutching her handbag. Evelyn stared at the floor. And Charles tried to gather what was left of his composure. I walked toward them. They straightened as if one small gesture from me could save everything. Miranda spoke first. "Aubrey, we should talk. Everything that happened." I looked at her the way one looks at a stranger. "Mrs. Hawthorne, I've heard enough." Charles stepped in. "You're still part of this family." Family doesn't push someone out of their own story," I said, my voice calm, not loud, not trembling. "And am not returning to the chapter you two closed yourselves." I turned to security. "Please escort them out." No one protested. No one argued. Because they finally understood. My life no longer lived in their hands. I turned away so lightly it surprised even me. A long chapter, closing with nothing more than an automatic glass door. That night, wind from the Hudson swept across the balcony of my new apartment. The city lights painted golden strokes on the walls like brushstrokes of a new life. Freedom is not a shout. It is a breath one you can finally take fully. I thought about the people still underestimated, dismissed by their families, forgotten in their own stories. If you are there, hear me clearly this time. You don't need anyone's permission to become whole. You only need to step toward the light that was always yours. And if this journey speaks to you, please like and subscribe to the channel so I can continue sharing many more meaningful and powerful stories with you. Because sometimes, the next chapter only appears when you're brave enough to step out of the old one.